Hey, these video sections are going to cover costumes and makeup in that world. We've already went over scenic and props, and we talked about the roles of a director and the various roles of actors. So now we're going to move on to, ooh, you can touch your face, costumes and makeup. So we'll start first. The book doesn't talk about makeup much, but I like to throw it in there because some productions and some shows have their own separate makeup designers. And that's beneficial because there's a lot of makeup heavy shows. And then there's some performance that have been done. It's been the costumes were makeup. So, these are interchangeable parts or they can be separate roles. But we'll discuss that more here in a minute. Just like with scenery, there's objectives for the designers for costume design, and there's 7 of them. It's to help establish the style of a production, to indicate the historical period of the play or the locale in which it's taking place. It can also indicate the nature of the individual or characters in the play, their stations in life, occupations, personalities, all that stuff is conveyed. Well, that's an objective to be conveyed. It can show relationships among characters, separating major from minor, so forth. When appropriate, it symbolically conveys the significance of individual characters or theme of the play. Also meets the needs of individual performers. Just because something looks historically accurate, maybe it cannot be wear-wise. I'll get into this a little bit deeper because maybe there's a lot of dancing, or maybe there's, fighting and stuff, or a lot of action, or just breathing. So it meets the needs. If things need to be accommodated because of movement, costumes a lot for that. And the last one is consistent with the production as a whole. Okay. The costume designer. So the process is broke down. You start pretty much the same way. You have the first, read the script. Read the script. Think you read it enough? Read it again. You read the script. You start coming up with ideas of personalities and characteristics and just elements. And then you have your first big production meeting. Again, especially this first one, this production meeting is made up of the director, usually the director, an artistic director, all the designers. So that's all areas of technical. You'll have a costume designer, a scenic designer, a lighting designer, a props designer, sound designer, so forth. Usually the shop managers, if they're separate people, will be there in attendance along with stage managers. But anyway, the costume designer, you go and have the main meeting with the director and other designers. And this is where the director, they give the parameters of the show. This is where the theme of the show is discussed. This is where the location is discussed. What kind of changes are happening. All this is discussed at this meeting. So the costume designer has read the play, has had the meeting, has found out what's going on. The next thing, interjection note here. Costume designers, costumes, that technical aspects works so close with actors, obviously because they dress them, but it's not only dress them. You want to get to know your actors. You want to know what makes them comfortable. You don't want to put them on stage in something that's constricting and just not, everybody wants to mesh well. Anyway, back to the process. You start the rendering process, and I've attached several renderings to Blackboard. It's underneath the header Costume Magic, and I'm going to do one that's Makeup Magic, but that's not right now. Under the Costumes and Makeup header for the chapter, I also put these little YouTube snippet video. Well, they're not snippet, they're actually like YouTube videos from costume designers themselves, explaining their process or a particular process through a production. And I covered both theatrical designers and film designers. obviously, because they're all costume designers, and it's great to hear this information. So, you start the rendering process, you sketch out ideas, and from there, you shop. I don't say shop. You color. The renderings is a picture of your design, and then usually little fabric samples or color samples that you want, and you go back and forth to the director. Everything gets okay. That's great. Let's get run with it. This is then at the same time your crew or your shop, costume shop, are meeting with actors and getting measurements, if measurements aren't already on a file. You get measurements and then you shop or build a show. Okay, so that's a quick rundown. I'm going to go down through it more. I've got little snippet thingies over here. Let's talk about the objectives. Break those down just a little bit more. Some are pretty self-explanatory, but just to be on the safe side. The costumes, it helps, along with the set, signify the style of production, the theme, just the style. Is it natural? You know, we discussed this. Natural theater is where they try to make everything as realistic as possible. It's a kitchen setting. Here's a stove that works. You can actually make yourself a cup of coffee on stage or wash a dish. Or is it non-realistic? You know, think large and elaborate sets. Dr. Seuss sets, or just really whimsical stuff that falls under not realistic. Or you could have stark black theater, like black box theater, or stark white. You know, or everything could be done with shadows on scrims and whatnot. So this helps establish natural, how natural, you're not natural, to what extreme each is. Okay. It obviously helps tell a period of the play. You know, different eras have different costumes. The typical flapper dress, you think, 1920s, they've got the little headdress on, the drop waist costume, all the little beads, being the little flapper girl. You know, that helps establish a style. Think of period films, Gone with the Wind, the costumes help establish. I'm saying movies because it's easier to come to mind, but, you know, Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, usually the costumes, if it's done traditionally, represents the time of the play. Hairspray is a musical that reflects the era, but you see where I'm going with this. The next one, it talks about the nature of the individuals. You know, you can portray in costumes a person's demeanor, their mood, you know, are they brooding? Do they wear, you know, are they more in dark clothes, like your blues and your grays and your blacks, which is like a little bit of anger with an undersplash of red through there? Or are they really peppy and happy, so they're wearing the bright and the vibrant colors? Are they supposed to be conveying a politician? So if that's the case, what would a politician wear? Are they, you know, conveying a holier than thou persona in their word? You know, this helps us establish the characters within the play. It can also show relationships among characters. You literally, okay, this family all wears this or this or that, but it also can distinguish, okay, the strong, bold, geometric shapes, those are your leads, whereas the more laid back, chill curves are your second-hand players. You know, it's kind of a black-white explanation. No gray area. It's this or that. And when we also talked about with the needs, it's helpful knowing what's going on in the play. Is there a lot of action? Is there not a lot of action? Are they kicking and moving and stuff? So the costume has to represent that. If it's a dancing, you know, the corsets can't be real historically accurate corsets, and to the point that the dancer cannot breathe. The same with guys, it's making sure the pants and stuff aren't too tight, but it's being comfortable. And then finally, being consistent with the production as a whole, along with other visual elements. I we'll go into more detail of all this. I'm going to make a makeup video too. But right now we're just working with costume. I did this little, I usually do this on the board, so I did here. So bear with me during this hot mess. You start with a costume designer, and I have a line out from it because, whoop, no. I didn't show the right page right. There we go. The makeup designer I've put on this world. So we're going to go back here to costume designer. Your costume designer, remember we are down from director and stage management. But the costume designer meets with a costume shop manager and an assistant. I put this off to the side. But not only, like the scenic world, the costume shop manager helps divvies out jobs and time management and make sure fittings are going as they need it to be and pieces are being made. And if anything needs pulled for rehearsals, if you need rehearsal skirts or shoes or boots or pants or capes, accoutrements, all that comes into play. Okay. Along with the shop manager assistant, a costume designer will also talk to a cutter draper. A cutter draper's job is they pretty much, I don't say they're pattern making, but it can be the same person. Some theaters, see there's pattern making right here. Sometimes these are the same person, and sometimes they're not, depending on the complexity of the show and the theater itself. Right now everything's dark, but that's okay. We will get cutter draper. They kind of just create the flow of costumes. I'm sure you've seen pieces that have the waves and the wrinkles strategically placed. A cutter draper does this by hand and by eyeing, not just cutting out the patterns. They're making patterns, but they're on a body form. A costume designer will also, if there's special crafts in shows, like some shows have tricks and costumes and stuff, and that's usually a department all of itself, or a person all of itself within the costume world, they talk to them. There's also milliners. They make you headwear, and sometimes that falls into the land of hair and makeup. Then, like I said, these two people are some, but sometimes you have a separate person that creates the patterns. These are people that just, if the pattern doesn't exist or doesn't exist in a size that you need, you then recreate your own pattern. So if anyone in the future needs something of that size or that variety, it's already on file. Okay, then everybody talks to stitchers. Why? Stitchers make it. Stitchers are just that. They sew. If it's being built, they sew. They do alterations because you start having fittings with actors throughout if it's things that you bought or things that you've made, you have to make sure it fits the actor and it's going to fit their needs, so they could come up into the dressing rooms, try them on. They can do stretches and moves to let you know, okay, yeah, this is great. Oh, this is a little loose, or this is a little tight. But stitchers are doing the work. They're doing the alterations. They're doing the build, the construction. They're doing the building construction along with all these people because this is where they're getting their, I need 4 of these cut at 3 feet by 2.5 on the fold on a bias. Really can't do that, but you catch my drift. So stitches of the world. Then once the show has been built and the costumes are ready to go, you go into load in and you hand off to wardrobe. Sometimes it's just a person, or depending on the show, multiple people. This is where quick changers and stuff come into, and run crew. Some shows have a separate manager for this that does all the stuff for tech to get you ready to go and kind of hands off to a run crew. And the run crew is just that these are the people that if there's quick changes during a show, that's what they're helping the actors. They're doing costume presets and laundry and all that good stuff. So that was a quick rundown. I'll make another video about makeup and stuff, but I am doing the costumes. There's a costume magic header that will have different costume change where you see the magic of costume quick changes. I include theater. I also included musicians, a lot of singers and stuff. Some even do them on stage. So I try to include a lot of fun different videos. I really want you to check those out and see the magic of costume. I'll keep adding to it. I will email and make an announcement. Like I said, I'll do a separate video for makeup, and then I'll do videos for makeup transformation on Blackboard as well. So thank you guys. I know this is a interesting transition, but we're going to have some fun. Okay. Have a great evening.